Hi friends. I love this time of year. With the flowers blooming and everything turning green again, I can't help but marvel at God's creativity and His beauty. As a photographer and graphic designer, I love how art always points us back to this aspect of God's character. But have you ever considered why God creates? God didn't need to make the heavens and the earth, and He didn't need to create man. He did so out of His abundant, gratuitous love. There's an ancient Japanese art called Konsugi. It's where the artist uses precious metal, typically gold, to reassemble broken teaware. A Konsugi master does not merely fix or repair the broken vessels, but uses these precious, costly materials to make the broken pottery even more beautiful and more valuable than the original. What could have been discarded and simply thrown away instead is transformed. The fissures, filled with gold, silver, or platinum, aren't hidden. In fact, they stand out as a testimony to the artist. Konsugi is a beautiful metaphor for the gospel. If God doesn't need us, then after the fall, God could have discarded man altogether. But out of His radical love for us, this zealous, crazy, beautiful love, He chose to redeem us through Christ. He takes us, broken shards of what was once whole, and not merely fixes our brokenness, but transforms us into a new creation. A creation made whole using the precious blood of Christ. Not out of any need, not out of any obligation, but purely out of love. 1 Corinthians 13 is sometimes referred to as the love chapter, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. After all, if you've ever been to a wedding or anniversary party, you've probably heard it quoted. It says in part, "Love is patient and love is kind. It does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things." So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. This passage is almost like the polar opposite of the culture we live in, where envy, boasting, arrogance, and rudeness can sometimes seem like the currency of the day, where being critical and winning the argument are held in higher priority than being compassionate and seeking understanding. But what if, as we seek the transformation of our lives, our communities, and the world through the renewing work of Christ, we were to truly embrace what Paul is saying here? What if our witness were more grounded in the concept of Konsugi than that of social media? In order for us to do so, I think we need to adopt a Lazarus mindset. Now, we all know his story. He died and for 4 days laid in the tomb. Foreshadowing His own resurrection later, Jesus went to the tomb, called Lazarus out, raising him from the dead. But Lazarus' response is what is so important for us as an example, and so beautiful. Instead of fleeing or hiding, instead of mounting some sort of defense, what did he do? He hung out with Jesus. Scripture tells us that he reclined with Jesus at a meal. After all, he had already died. What more could the authorities do to him? Lazarus knew that as long as he was with Jesus, he was going to be just fine. My prayer is that we might be more like Lazarus ourselves, less afraid of what might be, and more focused on what is and always will be, God's unwavering love for us. How much better might we love our neighbor if we were to do that? Let's remember that we are mere shards of broken pottery ourselves, repaired by the ultimate Konsugi master. Let us share our brokenness and use the beauty of our fissures, mended out of radical love with the most precious blood of Christ, to point our neighbors towards God. In closing, indulge me for a second as I share a favorite scene from one of my favorite TV shows. In season 2 of The West Wing, Leo is encouraging Josh and walking with him through a really difficult time in Josh's life. Leo says, "A guy falls down in a hole and can't get out because the walls are so steep. First, a doctor walks by. The guy says, 'Hey doc, can you help me out?' The doctor writes a prescription, tosses it in the hole, and moves along. Next, a priest walks by. The guy yells up, "Hey, Father, can you help me out?" The priest writes a prayer, tosses it in the hole, and keeps going. Finally, the guy's friend comes by. Our guy in the hole yells up, "Hey, buddy, I'm down in this hole. Can you help me out?" His friend jumps down in the hole with him. The guy says, "What? Are you nuts? Now we're both stuck in this hole." And the guy looks at him and says, "Yeah, but I've been in this hole before, and I know the way out." Friends, each one of us has been stuck down in a hole before. May we all lovingly jump in with our neighbors and show them the way out through Jesus Christ. Thanks for your time, and have a great evening.